Hey everybody, welcome to another video review. So this is a pretty special piece. I have previously talked about the Walt Disney Classics Collection Signature Series. And so we had gone over Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs with Soups on, and that was the inaugural first release. And the second was the crazy Cinderella Off to the Ball, which I also have a YouTube review of. And this is, of course, a homage to Pinocchio. And this is called The Finishing Touch, which again references, of course, Geppetto's artisanship, craftsmanship, creating artifacts and collectibles from wood, and of course his greatest creation, Pinocchio. And this was the third release from the Signature Series line, and it is just a breathtaking marvel, an achievement, again from Porcelain. It shows Geppetto working in his workshop and working on Pinocchio, and here, of course, you see Pinocchio as a marionette before being brought to life by the Blue Fairy. And here's Geppetto looking at him. This is like truly a masterpiece of porcelain art, and it's kind of hard to even know where to begin. And so I think the best way to begin is just sort of talk about where I bought it, kind of go personal before delving a little bit more deeply into the piece itself. So I got this off eBay. This retailed for $2,000. All of the signature series pieces are pretty expensive. Soups On was $2,000, and this one $2,000, and Off to the Ball was actually $2,250. It remains the most expensive Walt Disney Classics Collection release ever. So these are all high-end Rolls-Royce level pieces, and so this was released for $2,000. I forget whether the Signature Series ever got the normal discounts. I like to think they did, but that's pretty crazy. 10% even off of $2,000 is still like a $200 discount. So again, I don't know if these Signature Series pieces got the normal dealer's discount or anything like that. But I bought it on eBay, and the price at the time was almost too good to be true. It was around $900, I think, $900, give or take. And there were certain extenuating circumstances leading to such a great price. The first is that it did not have the green box. It came with the original styrofoam packaging, which protected the piece, but unfortunately the box had been destroyed. There was some mishap that I wasn't sure about. And then number two, it did come with the full certificate of authenticity and all of the paperwork, but the seal was broken because the cards had been taken out and read. So, I thought it was too good to be true, so I went ahead, I got it. Otherwise, the sculpture is in perfect condition, very, very beautiful. No obvious crazing or any of those types of imperfections. Although, again, my viewpoint on crazing, as long as it's not disfiguring, has changed over the years and decades. I now do consider crazing to be an unfortunate but sometimes unavoidable aspect of aging porcelain. And as long as it's not too obvious and doesn't, for instance, disfigure the faces, I'm willing to live with them a lot more, because these WDCC pieces are now fast becoming true antiques, very hard to get. And if you're going to be so picky as to consider crazing and imperfection, you may not be able to get any of these great pieces. So again, within reason, I'm willing to now accept it. But I'm happy to say that this piece doesn't have any real obvious crazing. There's like a little bit down here, which you can barely see. You have to go real, real close with the camera under flash. So to me, at least functionally, I think this piece is perfect. No damage, obviously, no repairs or anything like that, no cracks. So let's start by just kind of taking a look at the certificate of authenticity right here. So here you have the Signature Series. It's called The Finishing Touch with these characters on it. And it's number 307 out of 1,000 made. So this is the first card. And then of course the second card is the Walt Disney Classics Collection card right here. Then we have one that's signed by Roy Disney, who's sadly since passed on, but this piece had special significance for him, and he chose this piece to be the third in the entry. Roy Disney, as the chairman of the Walt Disney Features Animation, and he also was instrumental in getting the Walt Disney Classics collection off the ground. And so he had a great personal stake in the series. And so he chose this one for the signature series for the third release. Let's read this real quick. Pinocchio is an amazing film. The skill the animators and artists developed in the short time from the premiere of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs in 1937 to the premiere of Pinocchio in 1940 is astounding. But the affection I feel for Pinocchio the film is also very personal. It's a movie that reminds me of my childhood and the privilege I had of watching the artists actually at work on it. And this doesn't quite tell the whole story. Apparently, when Roy Disney was a younger boy and he was actually sick, his uncle Walt actually performed Pinocchio to improve his spirits and to entertain him. And it was such an amazing performance, which you can well believe, this being Walt himself, that it was indelibly imprinted in Roy's mind. And so Pinocchio, was always a major part of Roy Disney's psyche, so he was the one who chose it, and he signed it, so that's really nice. And then finally, a special signature card from the sculptor Bruce Lau, and here's what he said. The finishing touch has been both an honor and challenge to sculpt. I had to capture so much detail, yet make it all work together to tell a story. I knew I had finally accomplished this when I was able to look at the sculpture and feel the same way I imagined Geppetto feeling when he looked at his creation of Pinocchio. So really nice. And so this is indeed a tour de force of sculpting. And there are quite a few things about it that we can go over. First of all, Geppetto can be removed from the workshop, and so you can actually admire him by himself. I'm going to raise him up. He has, of course, real glasses. Very, very good. A lot of breakages can come from the glasses being shattered off, Geppetto and all of that sort of stuff. But here, it's perfect. And here he is, right from the animated feature. I love the smock, all of the detail of him. I'm going to take a look here. So you can see he's also individually numbered, 307 out of 1,000. Limited edition. Okay. All fine porcelain. And again, you can admire him from all around. Very, very nicely done. And again, you can see there's no real crazing. I think if you go really, really close up to here, you might see the barest hints of some crazing lines right there, but that's about it. Here we go. So that's Geppetto. And it's sort of challenging how you want to display him. Like, do you want to display him next to the workshop? Do you want to display him in his position here at the workshop, but just turn around? So either way, I think is acceptable, but I do think that from a story point of view, he probably works best actually looking at his creation and being placed right over here. Okay, so this is probably where he belongs in terms of the true sculpture, and then you have to kind of turn him around to showcase that. Okay, but I would be removing him from the workshop basically we can examine the workshop in greater detail. So from the Walt Disney Classics Collection Duckman website, they do have a lot of different information in addition to what we have from the certificates of authenticity. For instance, this has a couple of plussing elements, so to speak. So Jiminy Cricket right over here. Take a look, as well as the lady figure next to her. The clock parts right over here. Okay, some of the wood shavings down below, all these wood shavings. as well as the handle on the pots here. In addition to the vise handles right over here are all made out of pewter. In addition, the strings off of Pinocchio are all metal. I can attest to that. And then you have a lot of resin pores here to recreate the water as well, okay? This was a tremendously complicated porcelain piece to create. It required a lot of effort because it had just unbelievable intricacy and detail. Each of these had to be hand created. Can you imagine 1,000 of these pieces, handmade, hand painted? There were actually over 196 molds on the Workbench and 33 molds on Geppetto to be able to put them together. So you couldn't cast this all in one piece. It had to be done in little tiny pieces and individually put together, assembled and painted, and all out of porcelain. So that is mind-blowing. 196 separate molds on the bench and 33 for Geppetto alone. Like his hair, his mustache, the arms, the frock, the base. All of that had to be, kind of done separately, then put together and then fired. That was crazy. So they had to hand paint also all of the very small parts of the sculpture. And they had to fire it as well in the kiln, and it took extra time to do that because of the size of the piece. And there's over 100 different elements that was plus here or there. So this is truly a masterpiece of sculpting, and Bruce Lau and the entire Walt Disney Classics collection team should be just very proud of this work of art that they produced. And again, every Signature Series piece just screams quality. It just screams like, like Rolls Royce. So if you collect these porcelain pieces, this is kind of like the epitome of what you are buying. It doesn't get better than this. Okay, so we took a look already at Geppetto separately. I just like to sort of slowly rotate the workshop to give you a general idea of how big it is, as well as sort of the tableau, the scene, the setting that we're trying to create. This is Geppetto, obviously surrounded by the fruits of his labors. You have Cleo, the little goldfish leaping out of the bowl in mid leap, and of course, all of his creations sitting there and then working on his masterpiece, Pinocchio. And this is something that you would normally not often see because of the way the statue is displayed. Obviously, you wouldn't see the back of it. Most of the time, you would display it like this. So you would only be able to see this as part of a mirror, or if you had it again on a turntable like myself. So this is the other side of the Workbench. There's a lot of wonderful detail here as well, with the wall, the stone wall, and then of course this awesome Stromboli poster, which occurs at a different time in the movie, but this is sort of a little plus element, again, as a callback to that portion of the movie, the Great Stromboli Marionette Show, and of course Pinocchio runs afoul of Stromboli in the movie. So I thought this was a really, really neat segment, and of course you can tell the little plant here at the bottom, and then right around you can see another cuckoo clock over here with wonderful plussing elements, and then going back out. So we'll start with a nice little spin of the entire piece. Again, very, very beautiful, very nice. And now we're going to remove Geppetto, so we can take a look at the actual workbench itself. And I'm just going to sort of slowly look over the elements. There's just so much things going on here. So here are the wood shavings in the basket. This is all porcelain, basically, or 99% porcelain. There's a little bit of resin pour here, for instance, here, but the majority of all of this is, is porcelain. Beautiful job with the wood floor. Again, just like a Snow White soupçon's table, they just did a great job giving you the illusion it's wood. Just look at all the beautiful paint. It's all hand done, 1,000 pieces handmade. Can you imagine the labor that must have gone into this? That's just insane. So right here, you have the wood shavings. This is all pewter. Here's the vise handle right here. That's pewter as well. The vise is closed. Here's the picture on the little wooden table, I guess, the little tiny wooden stool. You have a drawer, and then on this side, of course, a little pedestal, another cup, and then the fishbowl with Cleo looking over it. Is that Cleo? I don't know. I think this might be Cleo, actually, the cat. It's just a goldfish. I obviously don't know my Pinocchio very, very well. I think no. I think the goldfish is Cleo, and then I think the cat is Figaro. Yeah, I think those are the names. Should go back to the certificate of authenticity. It tells you Pinocchio, Geppetto, Cleo, Figaro, and Jiminy Cricket. So let's go to the actual table here. Look at all of the amazing little things that's been sculpted, all the tools that Geppetto used to create his works of art. You can see all of that. Little hammer, the little tiny paints, and then of course Figaro just kind of hanging out. And then you have the very rare, depiction of Pinocchio as a true marionette before even being brought to life. And then this, of course, you can actually move. This is a real metal attached up here. So he is really a marionette. Again, beautifully done. And then more tools, a little wood shaving to the side, a host of paints, a jug, and other small wood creations and toys. I'm going to back out, give you a panoramic view. And then here, of course, I have a very, very nice cuckoo clock. More paints. A place where he's holding like a little Dremel or a little screwdriver. And then up top, the pots and pans. More areas where it's holding tools, tool holders. Look at all that. And then beautifully painted. And if you look over here, you can see that there's Jiminy Cricket next to a little lady. That's interesting. You have a little dish in the background. I think Jiminy Cricket's resting his hand on her butt, which might be a little inside joke, maybe by the sculptor. But okay, fair enough. So there you have it over here. Yeah, I think he's, is he groping her? I don't know what to say to that. I think I just caught that here. So that's, okay, that's interesting. I don't know if there's a story behind that. So I'm going to back up again to showcase the workbench in all its glory, the floor, and of course you have a very nice matching cuckoo clock, and at this time with a male bird right here. Trying to focus, and there you go. This is like a match, of course, to the other cuckoo clock on the other side. Here we go. Very nice. The marionette poster. So there you have it. The finishing touch with all the characters, and then of course Geppetto himself right over here. Just an awesome piece overall. And put it back into position right over here. It's very tricky. You don't want to slide it. You don't want to scratch the actual, base over here. And then I'm going to, again, just sort of slowly rotate so you get an idea of this piece. One of the best pieces that the Walt Disney Classics collection has ever made. And when you look at all of this, it's just mind-boggling that this was even possible. Again, you would never be able to make this today. It would be impossible to put all of this together in all the different ways. This is, remember, not like resin, it's like made out of fine porcelain. Think about all the different layers, all the different colors. Just imagine how you have to paint it, and then the authenticity of it. It doesn't look like a melted glob of candle wax. It literally is Geppetto and Pinocchio, Figaro, Cleo, all of them just in stunning detail, all of the different details of the workbench. All of that has to be put together by hand. So this truly is a masterpiece. I'm just so happy that I was able to obtain this. If you have a chance to get this, it's selling for probably $1,000 nowadays, $1,000 to $1,200. And if you get one with box, of course, it's a little bit more expensive. But getting this for like $900 shipped, was just a killer deal. But this is truly one of the best pieces in the entire line. Can proudly stand beside Soups On and Off to the Ball as a true signature series. So again, just over the moon with it. He's been in my collection for a long time. He's been sitting in my daughter's, top of my daughter's bookcase for the past, 4 or 5 years. So I'm just really happy I'm able to finally, take it down and give it a proper video review. So I hope you enjoyed that. I've now done reviews of almost all of the signature series pieces I own. Soups On, Pinocchio, Off to the Ball, those are the first three. And the only other signature piece I own from the line is of course, the Beauty and the Beast one. I own every one of the Beauty and the Beast Walt Disney Classics collection pieces, which I would like to review at some point, although it's behind glass. It's kind of really hard to get out. It's a really big piece, but I will be reviewing that in the future. But these three are sort of like the cornerstones of the Disney classics. When you think Disney classics, Snow White, Cinderella, Pinocchio, those are the giants. And the WDCC certainly did homage to those giants with amazing pieces all around. And these three, I want to do a separate little video just kind of showing a quick little video showing all three and just kind of the staggering impact when you see all three put together. So again, very, very impressive. So here you go, finishing touch Walt Disney Classics collection, limited edition of 1,000. This is 307 out of 1,000. Until next time, do take care.